and welcome to the EUobserver's chat show, MEPs Talk About EU. Joining me here today to discuss the state of the European Union is Morten Messerschmidt, the Danish MEP from the Europe for Freedom and Democracy group here in the European Parliament, and Andrey Korvechev, the Bulgarian MEP from the European People's Party here in the European Parliament. Thank you very much for joining me here today, and thank you very much for watching. So without further ado, let's talk about EU. Now, since January, the EU has been making the headlines, sometimes not for the right reasons. There's been a variety of crises, from the European sovereign debt crisis, the cucumber crisis, the Schengen debate, and so on and so forth. So before you take off on your holidays in August, I wanted to take the opportunity to have a chat with you about this and kind of analyse the state of the European Union at the moment. Because just recently Herman Van Rompuy said that the mood was not so good. What do you think, as the Vice Chairman of the European Union, or the European Federalists group, what's your opinion? How are you taking this criticism of the EU?
Indeed, the European Union is a deep crisis at the moment because we have two movements now among our citizens. One is pro-European, I hope very much this is the majority, and one which is more populistic and nationalistic thinking actually backwards. So I hope very much that the answer to the crisis, the answer to our problems, and the answer to have more jobs, more competitiveness on Europe, Europe to become a global player, and in our globalized world is more Europe.
But Mr. Messer, you wouldn't agree, would you? You would take another stance?
I think it's a good thing that when the European Union is creating problems, that we find solutions that are adequate for the modern world we live in. And it's obvious that the try to harmonize all the economics in the euro and try to build up an open movement within the union without border control has led to some tremendous problems, raising criminality, huge economic problems,
I mean,
and things
I'm sure
like that.
you enjoy travelling freely around the EU. So why is Denmark so adamant about restricting up these borders?
Well, I travelled freely even before Denmark joined the Schengen agreement. But I have no problem whatsoever to have my bags checked when I go through the airport and stuff like that. I just think the same thing should happen for people crossing the Danish physical border to Germany, for instance. That's what we have now reinstated, that we have more customs control. I would much rather wait 2 minutes at the border than I would have free movement of whatever criminal networks coming from all over the European Union.
What do you think?
No, Europe is not a pick and choose model. We cannot, national states cannot say, I like this common policy and I don't like the other one. I see the European Union only as a common market, but I don't like to share the solidarity, and I don't like to share other basic freedom and basic values of the European Union. And the freedom of travel is a basic value which we cannot give up. If a sovereign nation like to leave some of the, or not to respect some of the this basic value, then they need to decide under the Lisbon Treaty. They can leave also even the Union if they like. This is democracy, but this is not a pick and choose model. And the populists in Europe and anti-European policymakers are trying always to argue against the European Union, saying this is too expensive, giving some inefficiency of the bureaucracy in Europe. We can discuss all these points, but this is not to make Europe bad and to make the citizens believe that we don't need the European Union. In opposite, to make Europe strong, we need the discussion, a democratic discussion on all these problems: inefficiency, Greece, bureaucracy, criminality, security of our external borders, and there's a shared responsibility. We need more Frontex, more staff and more equipment for Frontex, that we secured our border. And I agree with you, criminals should be stopped, illegal immigration should be stopped on a European level with the European solutions and not with the national solutions. I believe in the European solution.
Okay, I'll just stop you there. Before we came on air, you said that you would like to shut down the European Parliament, both here in Strasbourg and in Brussels, but you don't want to see the end of the European Union. Can you explain a little?
Sure, I think the European Parliament is a farce. I mean, there is no connection between the parliamentarians and the voters. More than the majority of the votes we have, they are secret, so that people cannot control it. We don't have any public attendance really from, as we know it, from the national parliaments. But on the other hand, what we do have is 27 quite well-functioning parliaments in our member states. I think that the authority and the resources that is now within the European Parliament should be given back to the national parliaments, and they can take part in the legislative process along with the Commission and the Council. That will be a much more democratic way. It will be much more transparent and much more efficient.
Well, there seems to be a problem here. National governments are saying one thing to Brussels and then going back home and saying something else. We saw Viktor Orban yesterday, who was saying goodbye to the Hungarian presidency. He was here in the Parliament yesterday and he said that Hungary would never answer to Brussels and that Hungary was not subordinate to Brussels. So what do you think about that?
This is indeed very bad when national politics sitting in the Council, taking the decision in the Council and then taking the responsibility for these decisions and going back to their capitals and saying now European Union is forcing us to do this and that. I think if there is some successes, then all the politicians like to present these successes as their own successes, even their national successes. If there are some problems, some challenges, they give this problem to the European Union. We saw this with the strategy for the Roma's integration. Now some policymakers in the national states tried to transfer this responsibility to the European Union to do the integration of these 12 million Romas on our continent.
It's true that the countries are being forced here. We have a commission that has the monopoly of presenting new suggestions, and a commission which is not democratically elected. We have a parliament that might be elected, but is not a representative to the population. And each time we change the treaties, all the stakeholders in the union are trying to do whatever they can in order to avoid to have public referendums. So this is a union of force that they are not asking the people. They're asking the people only in the limited areas where they cannot avoid it. But in the major topics, the people is not invited into the political process. So obviously we see that people react against this because they are feeling that they are losing the influence on their everyday life. They're losing the influence on their democracy, on which policies should be governing in their countries.
Not for sure, not because we have different level of governance. We have the regional one, we have the national one, and we have for sure one supranational, which is the European Union with the three institutions. Now we need to discuss how to do it more legitimate, how to do it more democratic for sure. The European Parliament is the only one directly elected parliament, but we have a problem because the European debate more visible to the citizens and not so far to the citizens. For sure, I have some points what you raised is totally agree with this, but the way to the instruments to renationalization, what you suggest is something what I totally not agree.
But see, just for the fact that we have to speak a second language in order to communicate on this, I mean, you have to be able to communicate in other languages than your native language. Just that is a limitation of the political debate. Why not move this discussion to a national parliament where you can discuss in your tongue with your voters, where I can in Danish with my voters and so on?
Do you think in our globalized world, indeed, Denmark as a sovereign, only alone staying country will survive?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, but what is your recipe? What do you suggest to dissolve our European Union, to get rid from the European Parliament, and
yes,
to
we need
have
solutions,
somehow
exactly.
intergovernmental cooperation?
Well,
like
let's just state one
United
thing,
Nation,
that the solutions that the European Union has been providing for the past 10 years has only led to more problems and less solutions. So that's a fact. I mean, you just started this interview mentioning all the crises that occurred due to EU regulation.
But if you know the history of our continent, if you know the oldest problems with the world, with the ethnical clearance, what was done on our continent, if we don't go in the direction of more integration, we will end up again in a catastrophe, in a disaster. And I don't think only intergovernmental cooperation is enough.
But the fact is that your way is actually leading to less and less support among the population. The more integration you get, the less support you have in the European populations to this project. Maybe you should just for once ask the populations what they want, not only the Irish that had to be asked twice in order to vote the right answer. Maybe you should actually ask the people, and not only the Commission, what it is that they desire in order to avoid the past that none of us want.
But maybe we together should show to our citizens the benefit of our Europe, of the European Union, of the European project, and not to argue against Europe, and not always to try to make a national policy carrier on the shoulder of the European Union and to say how bad is European Union, the European integration.
At this stage, I just want to ask our viewers what you think. Is Europe a solution or is it a problem? Please leave us a comment here under the video or write us an email at video@EUobserver.com. Now let's just quickly talk about the Polish presidency. We saw Donald Tusk give an inspiring speech this morning that was very pro-European integration. Tell me how you react to that speech.
I was amazing, very happy to hear Donald Tusk this morning, because we missed for many, not years but months now, such a strong pro-European commitment to our continental integration, I will say, in this globalized world. And we don't have any other alternative than the further European integration, because renationalization, introducing of borders between us, and egoistical thinking, even on the multi-financial financial framework and the budget, is something what will not bring us further. And please, this is very important to understand our citizens. If we go on the numbers, we are working as European citizens 4 days, for less than 1 week, for the European Union budget. So now populists in Europe are trying always to say European Union is too expensive, but the benefit of the Union is much, much higher than this 4 days what we are working for the European budget, and this 1% of the GDP what is in the European budget. And we expect from this budget a lot: agriculture, environmental infrastructure, human rights, and for sure all the social issues what are related with education and so on.
And just to wrap up, the future of the EU, in your opinion, should be?
Well, there are two roads. I mean, either you can follow the federalist one here, which will remove the European project more and more away from the population, and people will lose more and more faith, and thereby the entire democracy will be in jeopardy. Or you can try to listen to the people and thereby enforce the true way of working together, limiting the European association on what is crucially an international matter, but of course respecting the differences among the countries, the democratic traditions, and that some countries want to have not closed borders, but more border control, that some countries want to have another economical governance, that some country wants to have specific details in their constitutions, and that is not something for people that are not representing these countries, or commissioners that are not representing anybody, though, to decide on.
And finally, you, in 20 seconds, can you tell me what your vision for the future of Europe is?
First of all, there's no different reading of the human rights. So this is a fundamental. The human rights need to be respected in all member states, and we cannot say this is a national problem. If in one country there is a problem with the respect to the minority and so on, we need to get closer to our citizens, to explain to our citizens why European Union is needed and is no alternative to have a closer cooperation, because we need the citizens. Without the citizens, it's sure that we cannot succeed.
And I want to know what you citizens think about the state of the European Union. Please leave us a comment or send us an email to video@EUobserver.com. I'll leave you now with a clip of just a glimpse of what the people on the street think about the European Union. Thank you very much to my guests today for joining me, and thank you, of course, for watching. Goodbye and take care.
Je pense qu'elle va pas très bien. Au niveau financier en tout cas.
L'Union européenne, je souhaiterais qu'elle soit plus sociale. C'est ce qui décourage les gens en ce moment et qui les détourne de l'Europe.
Moins de débats sur tout ce qui est nationalité, sur tout ce qui est moins de racisme.
Parce qu'il y a des désaccords entre les différents pays, donc je pense que le processus est en train de ralentir.
Les Européens ont besoin de savoir déjà s'il y a vraiment une identité européenne ou si c'est chacun dans son pays. Parce qu'en ce moment, on est énormément dans le nationalisme.